He walked in with a cake, ready to surprise his wife on her special day, but what he heard made him freeze in his tracks. Her voice was filled with such dirty, shocking words that everything around him fell silent, and 12 years of loyalty were destroyed in an instant. But he didn't break down. He just smiled, because he already knew exactly how to get back at her, and when he did, it destroyed everything she ever held dear. Ethan Masters had always lived a quiet, devoted life. He wasn't flashy or arrogant, but when it came to loving his wife, Rachel, he gave it his all. For 12 years, 8 of which they were married, he ran the household, paid the bills, planned romantic anniversaries, cooked dinner when she worked late, and celebrated her every success as if it were his own. Rachel was a promising executive at a luxury real estate company in Chicago. She had just closed a $42 million deal that earned her a significant promotion. The night before, she had called him, sounding distracted and tense, and asked him not to come into the office because it would be hectic. Ethan didn't mind. She worked hard, and he trusted her. But that morning, he ignored her words. He wanted to surprise her. He ordered a lemon raspberry cake, their wedding flavor, and bought a bouquet of her favorite white lilies. When he called her assistant, Vanessa, to see if she was free, Vanessa squealed with excitement and told him to come at 4 o'clock. Ethan arrived with a smile. Vanessa and 2 junior agents joined him in the elevator on the 16th floor, chatting about Rachel's promotion and how she might soon become regional vice president. As they approached the conference room, they heard it. Muffled laughter, then a voice that was unmistakably Rachel's. The hallway fell silent. Someone coughed. Another stifled laugh. Ethan's hands trembled. The cake tilted as he recognized her voice and name. Marcus Delaney, the 62-year-old senior partner, married, balding, her mentor and family friend. Ethan had invited him to their wedding. He threw open the glass door. Rachel was half naked, sprawled across the conference table in designer shoes, her blouse and skirt unbuttoned. Marcus was lying on top of her, sweaty and gasping for air. Rachel opened her eyes, unfocused at first, then wide with horror. She pushed Marcus away. Ethan calmly set the cake on the floor, and it fell on its side. "Wow," he said quietly. "Is this the bonus you were promised?" Without waiting for an answer, he turned and left. No screams, no tears, no anger. Just a smile, because he knew she had no idea who she had betrayed, and his revenge would be complete. The next morning at 6 a.m., desperate voice messages from Rachel began. She mumbled something about testing VR simulators for clients, saying it was all a misunderstanding. Ethan ignored them. He had work to do. First, he gathered evidence. Their shared iCloud backup revealed everything. Deleted texts, explicit photos, hotel meetings, messages like, "Can't wait to feel you again, my alpha," and "Meet me after lunch at the Marriott, room 609, our lucky number." Even corporate emails from Marcus signed, "Sinking late tonight," with attachments titled, "Third Quarter Bedroom Trends." Ethan compiled everything into a 30-page encrypted dossier, including screenshots, images, messages, and most importantly, the conference room surveillance camera footage from 3:45 to 4:10 p.m. Rachel had once shown him how to use the building's online security system, and he had memorized every step. The recordings were crystal clear. There was no escape. Second, he destroyed their safe places. He created a new Gmail account under a fake name, attached the dossier, and sent it to Rachel, Marcus's wife, the building's security service, and the HR department with the subject line, "Urgent evidence of wrongdoing." The text of the email read, "Please find attached evidence of professional misconduct committed by Rachel Masters and Marcus Delaney in conference room 3B on October 19th. The misconduct includes ethical violations, misuse of corporate expenses, and workplace harassment. Please keep this confidential. No further contact is required." He also anonymously reported Marcus's corporate card expenses for romantic dinners, which were listed as client meetings, to the finance department. He then uploaded a photo from the conference room camera to a private Slack real estate group with the caption, "When your bonus comes with extra perks." The consequences were swift. By noon, Rachel's corporate Audi lease had been canceled. Her name spread through real estate circles like wildfire. A message she had sent to Marcus a few days earlier was leaked in her team's chat. "You're the only deal I want to close." Marcus's wife filed for divorce within 3 days, citing irrefutable evidence of infidelity. His company suspended him from work pending an investigation. Rachel was summoned to Human Resources, where she was greeted by a printout of a surveillance camera image lying on the table. Meanwhile, Ethan sat in his dark apartment, sipping black coffee as Rachel's world crumbled layer by layer. He hadn't used her most intimate secrets yet, but he intended to. Betrayal deserved to be torn to pieces. On the 3rd day, her silence was finally broken. Ethan was enjoying a glass of Pinot Noir when there was a furious knock at the door. He didn't flinch. He knew it was her. When he opened the door, Rachel was standing there barefoot, her hair disheveled, mascara smeared across her swollen cheeks. Her once immaculate beige suit was wrinkled and stained. She clutched her phone and a crumpled envelope in her hands shaking. "Ethan," she croaked. He didn't answer or invite her in. "I lost everything," she whispered. He said nothing, letting her words hang between them. "I've been fired. The HR department has photos, videos, everything. Marcus isn't answering my calls. He says it's bad for his image. My friends won't talk to me. The code to my apartment has been changed." "Your company apartment?" he asked coldly. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. "They said I violated moral standards, possible legal action. Ethan, it was you, wasn't it?" He stared at her, unblinking. "Do you remember what you screamed in that room? Your assistant, your team, and I were standing right outside the door with a cake." She shook her head desperately. "You begged him to make you a mother in a conference room with glass walls, in front of all your employees who were standing just a few feet away from you. Please." She moved closer, sobbing. "Don't," he said quietly but sharply, his voice as hard as steel. Her voice faltered. "I didn't want it to turn out this way. You were boring, predictable. You didn't even notice that I—" "Stop," he interrupted her, calmly and firmly. "You had a choice. You could have told me you were unhappy. You could have left. Instead, you decided to sleep with a man who treats women like trash, and here we are." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she sobbed quietly and intermittently. "I lost my job, my apartment, my reputation. The media is after me. You destroyed me." "No," Ethan replied evenly. "You destroyed yourself. I just illuminated the wreckage." She looked at him with empty eyes. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Live with what you've created, and pray that it teaches you a lesson." Then he stepped aside, not letting her in, and closed the door behind him for good. He pointed down the hallway. "You won't find forgiveness here. There is no more Ethan." Rachel didn't argue. She didn't scream. Barefoot, with mascara running down her cheeks, she simply turned and walked away, disappearing into the elevator hallway like a ghost chasing the fragments of who she once was. Ethan watched her go. He felt neither joy nor anger, only clarity. He had confronted his monster. Now it was Marcus's turn. The next morning, Ethan stood at the window of his apartment, warming his hands with coffee, while outside, the Chicago skyline blurred in the foggy dawn. But his thoughts were not on the city. They were already moving forward, strategically and inexorably, toward the final stage of his plan. Rachel's disgrace was only the first wave. A deeper victory, a true destruction, would come with the complete defeat of Marcus Delaney. Not just a stumble, a complete collapse. Because while Rachel had betrayed Ethan's love, Marcus had betrayed his respect, his career. his sense of legacy. Marcus wasn't just the man Rachel slept with, he was Ethan's mentor. When Ethan joined the firm at 24, full of enthusiasm and ambition, Marcus took him under his wing, promising him growth and partnership. He even spoke at Ethan and Rachel's wedding, calling them the next influential couple in Chicago real estate. That snake raised a toast to their vows, coveting Ethan's wife like a deal he was about to steal. Ethan clenched his hands at the memory, but anger was no longer his driving force. Now it was a goal. He opened his laptop and reviewed the next phase of his plan, a forensic accountant. He had hired a freelance financial analyst under the guise of preparing for a merger audit and provided her with reports on expenses related to Marcus's corporate card. Using a database obtained from a contact on the darknet, Ethan uncovered everything. Dinners marked as client meetings were actually intimate wine tastings costing $400. Hotel rooms booked under Rachel's maiden name, payments to escort services disguised as talent consulting. But simply sending this information to the company would have resulted in a quiet dismissal, hushed up by legal maneuvering. Ethan needed noise. He contacted Whitney Jong, a tough investigative journalist who hosted the popular podcast Gray Collar Crimes. She loved stories that exposed powerful people. He sent her a teaser, an edited, minute-long recording from a board meeting and 2 screenshots of fake expense reports. Her response came instantly. "Damn, is this real?" He gave her everything with one condition: keep his identity secret. By Friday, the first episode was out. The Boardroom Case: How a Real Estate King Built a Career on Lies and Lust. It blew up the internet. Marcus Delaney's smooth face, once gracing the pages of Chicago Executive Monthly and Modern Realty Visionaries, was now a thumbnail photo under the headlines, "Power, Privilege, and Intimate Conversations, the Scandal of the CEO's Secret Mistress." Within 12 hours, Marcus was suspended from work. In a silent vote, the board of directors stripped him of all his powers. His wife, Yvonne, filed for divorce that same day, issuing a scathing statement condemning his predatory behavior and decades of moral hypocrisy. Ethan wasn't done yet. He anonymously emailed a transcript of Marcus's interview with HR, which he had obtained through bribery, to major clients. It revealed not only his affair, but also how he had manipulated junior employees and violated ethical standards to impress Rachel. Clients left in droves. By Monday, the company's stock was down 7%. By Tuesday, Marcus had been removed from the company website. LinkedIn deleted his profile due to complaints of harassment. Reddit was flooded with confessions. A secretary, a junior agent who rejected an invitation to drink, and an intern who was blacklisted after complaining about him to HR all spoke out about Marcus's harassment. Ethan watched it all with quiet detachment. He didn't need to shout, "I did that." Silent justice spoke loud enough. The following weekend, a former colleague sent Ethan a blurry photo. Marcus was sitting alone in a dusty roadside cafe in a rumpled suit, not touching his coffee. The man who had once towered like a skyscraper had become a forgotten shadow. Ethan kept the photo, not to gloat, but to remind himself of what happens when power corrupts and people mistake silence for weakness. He closed his laptop and exhaled, long and deeply. Rachel was gone. Marcus was destroyed. But this ending wasn't about them. It was about him and what would come next. 6 months had passed. 6 quiet, uneventful months. The horizon that had once defined his life now existed only in photographs he no longer looked at. Ethan left the chaos of Chicago for a modest house near Lake Geneva in Wisconsin. It wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. Here, the morning began with birds singing and the creaking of old floorboards. He slowly brewed coffee, read books, and wrote in a leather journal that had become his therapy. He no longer wrote about Rachel or Marcus. That chapter of his life was closed. Now he wrote about beginnings, self-discovery, and recovery. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" On a rainy Thursday at the local library, he met Eliza Morgan. She was giving a poetry workshop for teenagers. She was a high school literature teacher with warm eyes behind her glasses and a smile that often lit up her face, showing that she laughed a lot. Her voice was calm and confident. When she spoke, people listened. They met when he was returning some novels. She complimented his taste, and they started talking about Raymond Carver. That turned into coffee. Coffee turned into deep conversations. Conversations turned into a relationship. She never asked about his past. During their third meeting over a cup of chamomile tea, she asked only one question. "Do you believe people can start over?" Ethan looked into her eyes, soft and sincere. He remembered Rachel's screams in the glass office, Marcus's empire in ruins, the moment the elevator doors closed behind him, and he realized he wasn't broken, but transformed. "Yes," he said quietly but confidently, "if they want to. If they're willing to face the truth and work on themselves, then yes, anyone can." She smiled and took his hand. No games, no pretense, just warmth. That night, Ethan didn't dream of betrayal. He didn't wake up in a cold sweat, reliving the humiliation. Instead, he dreamed of a swing on a porch, a light rain, and a quiet voice reading poetry next to him. A few weeks later, Rachel sent an email. The subject line read, "Did this make you happy?" The message was short. "You got everything you wanted. My name is ruined. My life is worthless. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just lost. So tell me, Ethan, did this make you happy?" He stared at her words for a long time, then typed a reply. "I'm not happy because of what happened to you. I'm happy because I stopped letting you define what happiness is. You were never the whole story. You were just a chapter, a painful chapter. But the book goes on. I've moved on." He pressed send and then blocked her, not out of hatred, but out of a sense of liberation. For her, it was the end. For him, it had ended long ago on that morning when he was planting hydrangeas in his garden and realized he was humming again. Not because the pain was gone, but because he had survived it. A year later, Ethan stood holding Eliza's hand in the community center hall. The literacy program they had created was celebrating its first anniversary. 40 teenagers had improved their reading skills. 3 had received scholarships. One boy, once considered unteachable, read his poem about perseverance. As the room filled with applause, Ethan felt something unfamiliar. Not revenge, not justice, not pride, just peace. Real peace. He didn't need to post it online. He didn't need Rachel or Marcus to suffer anymore. Because true revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about creating something greater without them. It's about laughing again, trusting again, living again. It's about becoming the person who walked out of that boardroom and never looked back.